Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of What the Field. I'm Emmeline.
And I am Roman. Today we'll be talking about the rise of flexitarianism with Bernat Añaños, co-founder and chief social movement officer at Heura. Bernat, thank you so much for being with us today. We're honored to have you.
Thank you for having us.
Maybe you can start by telling us a bit about yourself. I mean, for us, you're very famous, but for those of you who don't know you yet and don't know what you do, maybe you could explain it a little bit to our audience.
Okay, so first I'm going to introduce a bit myself and then what I do, which is, I think, what's important. I always say that I was a frustrated human being. So now I am an ex-frustrated human being because I was not finding my place in the world, especially the professional world, which at the end is a big part of our lives. And now I define myself as a good rebel, as a food activist. And I try to do it through Heura Foods, a company that we created together with Mark in 2017. So 5 years ago, a bit more. And yeah, we use plant-based meat as a tool to change the food system.
Great. So Bernat, how did Heura actually come to be? Because you're a company from Barcelona, and it seems like Barcelona and the whole Mediterranean identity is a key part of your business, right?
Yes. I mean, Heura starts because I was not the only frustrated in the world. Mark was also frustrated. He wanted to have an impact that he was not having. He was coming from the consciousness and animal rights activism. And he thought, yeah, this is great, but we also need tools, products that help all these people that want to make changes to actually be able to make those changes. So then it's where we crossed paths. And I was like, wow, this resonates very well on me. Like, I think this is what I need in my life. And this meant to stay in Barcelona, which for me at that point was like, oh, wow, marrying a city, not having the chance to change every 6 months. But when you find your match, you find your match. So Heura was my match at that point. And yeah, Heura was the tool to have the positive impact we wanted to have. It sounds very cliche, but we wanted to kind of save animals and save the planet. And we didn't know how to do it. And then we found Heura as a concept, and then the plant-based meat behind Heura as a tool to change it. And you mentioned Barcelona. At the very beginning, a lot of people say, "Are you crazy guys? Why you want to change the world from here? I mean, no one will listen to you. Go to Silicon Valley or go at least to the north of Europe where people like are a bit more open to this. Here we love food and we love meat and it's a center of our culture." We're like, especially because of that, we have to do it from here because we love food and because we love meat. We think that the Mediterranean has to have a player in this food transition, in the whole protein transition. And we wanted to do it from here, making sure that the Mediterranean culinary heritage is in the center of everything we do. And that's why we use olive oil, for example, or extra virgin olive oil as a fat, and we don't use other fats, or why we put so much effort on health, which other companies might not, because it comes from different heritages. But we use the Mediterranean to make sure that the standards are very high. It's products that you want to eat every day, that you can eat every day, and that you can find and afford every day. And this is the mission. A lot to do still, but we are sure that we can do it from here. And I think we are kind of showing it, that you can change the food industry from Barcelona, from the Mediterranean, from Spain.
Yeah, it's actually, as a Spaniard myself, I think it's quite challenging to find vegetarian food anywhere you go. I mean, it's great that you're helping to change things for meat alternatives. And I wanted to ask you, like, perhaps a question that many people have thought about when discussing alternatives to meat. Why do you try to imitate meat itself? You know, why the flavor? Why the texture? Fake hamburgers, fake chicken, or call it as you wish. But that's some of the comments we've heard, of course. And instead of creating perhaps a new type of product.
I guess it's the question. I did not quantify the questions I received the last 5 years, but if I would, I think this would be in the top 3. So my answer is very easy. It's like I love meat. We love meat. Mark, Bernat, and the majority of vegans love meat. Just don't like the consequences of it. So we put a lot of effort to make sure that we can get the best part of meat, which at the end is the texture, it's the minerals, it's the protein, it's the social part of it, because let's remember, meat is a bit more than meat. It's the barbecues, it's the weddings, it's the grandma's recipes. This is meat. So we are sure, and we are showing that you can get to this, skipping the animal. So with everything good with this point. So for the animal, for the planet, and for the health. And it's not just Heura. I mean, it's other companies trying to reach this point. A lot of partners in mission trying to show that there is another way to get to this meat, to the barbecues, to the grandma's recipes, to this social part that we love.
And why do you think does Heura especially have such a success story? Because I mean, you're sort of exploding, at least here in Spain. Do you think it's because more and more people are becoming vegans? Or do you think, does it have any other reasons? Or do you also have consumers maybe that are not vegans?
Yeah, our consumer base is majority non-vegans. And I think this is the best news ever. I mean, reaching people that were not reached yet in the plant-based food sector is the best news. And especially we have a lot of repetition, a lot of people that kind of enter to this world through Heura and continues to this world through Heura, and the most important thing here is taste. Like, people stay for the taste, because like if you break those barriers, if you make products that are attractive, and attractive has to be from the communication side, from the packaging side to the taste, it has to be attractive throughout the whole funnel, because if not, it will be just once, and one night stand in the product line means a failure in the future.
So, Bernat, you were saying that a lot of your clients are actually not vegans, which means that there are people that are choosing a plant-based alternative to meat from time to time, I'm guessing. And there's this new, but I don't know if it's new, but there's this buzzword in sustainable nutrition that is flexitarianism. What are your thoughts on that? What is flexitarianism for you, or how does it relate to your business model?
I mean, it is a word that helps to organize, I guess, a trend. And I think it's important to define it as a trend, because it's something that here comes to stay. And if you check any of the reports that any of the organizations worldwide are doing, it's something that will stay. And we will keep reducing the amount of meat till we get to a point where like animal meat is the minimum part of the food industry. So yeah, my thoughts, I mean, it's funny how certain companies use it. Let's call it funny. But as a word, I think it helps to organize a big trend, which in certain countries, like in Spain, is 35 to 40% of the people, and other countries in Europe is approximately. So it is a big trend. And I think something that 10 years ago or even 5 years ago would have been impossible to imagine, listening people that saying, yeah, I don't eat red meat anymore. I just eat meat once. I'm not buying meat. I just eat it when I go to a restaurant. Like, all these people 5 years ago were eating meat every day, because like if you check our diet, like almost every day we eat meat for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. So it is a big trend, and I think it is a positive trend. The word itself, sometimes it's funny used.
Bernat, we'd love to dig a bit deeper into the sustainability aspect of Heura. And in general of the industry. Like, do you believe that the consumption of meat and dairy, the way it's today, is sustainable, and also the opposite? Like, can meat substitutes be a sustainable alternative for the future?
I mean, the current food system, so the one that is using animals to transform proteins to more proteins, it is unsustainable, and I think it is clear. And we don't even have to check if it's 15% or 20% of the CO2 emissions, et cetera, et cetera. We just have to check that we are not able to feed everyone in the world. And I mean, this food system had many years to get more efficient, many years to be very effective, to reach everyone, and they did not. Using animals, it's so bad. Like, I mean, for the animal itself, let's not forget this. I mean, we have 10 times more animals than humans every year killed for the food industry, without counting the marine, which is crazy numbers. All these animals need, like, produce certain things, and then need to be fed by and to give like to drink water in like big amounts, and this is unsustainable because at the end, if I mean I can give lots of numbers, but you need, for example, 20 kilograms of soy to get 1 kilogram of beef, while to get 1 kilogram of Heura, you just need half a kilo, meaning 40 times less. When you know this, and you start to like make it big and the magnitude, the same amount of resources can feed Europe as a continent, or can feed more than 6 times the whole planet. So it is unsustainable because it is destroying environments. Amazon is one that's getting all the attention, but there are so many others. Like there are environments in Russia. All Africa is being destroyed also to get more protein to feed the animals, to feed the first world.
And Bernat, to what extent are meat substitutes a real alternative?
I think we are a real alternative. We are showing it. We just have to scale it more. But scaling it will mean getting like more democratic prices, more accessibility, and better distribution. So I mean, we will get to price parity very soon. I mean, in the following 2 to 3 years, we have to get to price parity, which for me, it is a big like step, because then there is one less barrier, because let's remember products like Heura and the whole range of like plant-based meats are a bit more expensive than the animal meat products. Also, like here, big question, how a chicken can be that cheap. We have to ask ourselves how this chicken can be that cheap. It is a bit scary what we're doing behind that chicken, because €4 kilogram, 5 kilo, it is crazy, yeah?
Indeed, it's a matter of concern for everyone, I think. But at the same time, if you want to be a democratic alternative, you need to scale up, which is difficult.
But we will, and I mean, it is something that will happen very soon. And there is another thing in parallel that will happen. The institutions are starting to prepare certain regulations on getting more taxes on the products that have a negative impact. And I mean, meat has all the numbers to be the first one, because I mean, all the organizations worldwide, all the big universities worldwide are saying, hey, either we reduce meat, or like everything that we are doing to do this like green agenda doesn't make sense. This has to be the first chapter, and then the others. But like meat and dairy it has to be the first, because also it's the one that we have very good solutions already on the table, that we just have to make sure that are distributed, accessible, and democratic price-wise.
Talking about the green agenda, part of the EU Green Deal is also to augment the percentage of organic agriculture. And why are your products not organic?
Our focus? I love this question. I mean, our focus is to have nutritional complete products with very high quality ingredients and very sustainable, and obviously then very delicious overall. And with this, we use high quality ingredients that doesn't have to be certified as organic. I think like if one of the topics we want to make sure it's price parity, we know what happens with organic and all these like production lines, maybe in the future, but honestly, like there is a lot of information and a lot of debate here. We use traditional soy. That's all. Like the soy that we use is traditional soy from Europe, and this makes sure that it's high quality, number one, and also that it doesn't allow to have like weird things behind, as can happen in different places in the world, like the Amazonia, where deforestation is very connected to soy. So that's our focus at the moment. I mean, let's remember, we are a 5-year-old company. This in the food industry is very young, like we just been born. We have a lot to learn, but I think we have very clear our mission, which is like, again, like, and it's our mantra, products that you want to eat every day because they are amazing, products that you can eat every day because nutrition-wise, they are very good, products that are very accessible, geographically speaking and economically speaking. And anything that makes us deviate from this is not for now. Maybe it's for when we are a bit more grown up, but at the moment, this is the focus.
Yeah, I wanted to touch real quick on the soy matter, because many people, particularly within our audience, have heard about the problems of deforestation in the Amazonian. So you basically chop trees to plant soy and have put cattle on it as well, but primarily the soy. What does and there was this statement in your packaging: our soy is non-GMO and comes from crops that do not encourage deforestation. What does this mean exactly?
I mean, it's two facts. One, it's non-GMO. Here, big debate about GMOs.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we can do a chapter about GMOs. And it comes from crops from areas in the world that are like, we make sure that we know that it doesn't connect to deforestation. For example, there is very cheap soy in the Amazonian.
Yeah.
I mean, and almost all the soy that is feeding all the pigs in Spain comes from the Amazonian. I think the other day I was reading that just bringing the soy from the Amazonian, and that's soy that the Catalonian pigs, the pigs that are produced in Catalonia, like the soy we use, it's more than 5% of the CO2 emissions of Catalonia. Wow. Just the soy, yeah? Not even like then the rest of the process of like getting the pork to a supermarket, which is crazy when you check this. And a part that it's very connected to deforestation. One thing that it's data, it's non-GMO. I mean, in Europe you cannot sell products that are GMO based, so this is just data because there is a lot of misinformation, and it's something that we've been asked a lot of times. More information to the consumers very soon, because I think we share a lot, but I think we can share a lot more. And by sharing, you kind of push the rest of the companies to share more. So if you get open, the others have to get more open. And I think as we don't have anything to hide, why not pushing the whole industry to show what we are doing?
I mean, we love it, and we love the fact you're here explaining it. Shall we talk a bit about packaging, perhaps? Because that's also a big matter of concern. And, we get it all the time, like perhaps because people see the packaging as something they can touch, but they don't really see what's behind the scenes. And perhaps it's not always the most impactful thing in the entire production process of the food supply chain, but it still has an impact. Up until very recently, I know you were using plastics. Are you still using plastics? Recyclable plastics? Recycled?
Yeah, like I think it was 8 months ago, maybe, roughly. Yeah, we had a cartoon-based like bit of plastic, and then we changed to whole plastic, recycled plastic. It was a big change, and it was very funny because when we launched the cartoon, like they looked very nice and very organic, blah blah. Everyone was clapping and saying, "Hey, how great! Thank you. You're the only one." But some experts send us messages the following weeks, and I was the one receiving them because I wanted to be very like cautious on what we were doing. And some experts were like, "It looks very sustainable, but it is not." And I was like, "Wow, interesting." So at the end, when we got some information, we kind of worked inside and we said, "Okay, let's get an external to quantify this, to quantify different kind of packagings and which is the impact." And our packaging was performing terrible. It looked amazing. Everyone was clapping and everyone was like making pictures of us, like our packaging, and say, "Yeah, finally, very eco-friendly." And I was like, this data says it's not. So first thing we've done is, okay, like I don't want to do any greenwashing. So I really want to empower consumers by like making the right decisions, not the ones that they think they're better. So we said, okay, we have to change the packaging. And then we studied which ones were best. And we found that air-PET plastic was the best we could do now. And this is our mindset, the best we can do now. And then maybe in 6 months, in a year, we can change and do better because there will be better technologies, probably, hopefully. But at the moment, like just changing from one to the other, we reduce 50% the fossil fuels, for example, which is a lot. And then like the use of renewable energy was much higher, like I think 70 or 80% higher in the plastic one. And all the numbers were very, very impressive. Like, whoa, this packaging is much better. So it's amazing. And I think sometimes companies, we treat consumers as stupid human beings. And like we think like, no, let's just say the things that they will understand. But people read, people understand. And if you show transparency in certain matters that people care a lot, people understand. And what had to be a crisis of like people telling us how bad we are and like how much we pollute, people understood very well. And now people are a bit more aware. So when someone criticizes someone to have plastic, says, hey, be careful, because sometimes plastic can be the best option today. Obviously, buying bulk is much better, but we also sometimes have to be pragmatic and in how many places you can buy bulk.
Yeah, especially if you live alone or with your partner, it's difficult.
Yeah. And last but not least, and I think you mentioned it at the beginning, but in the worst case scenario, the transportation and the packaging accounts for 10% of the impact of the whole product.
Yeah.
So we have to put the focus. Obviously, like plastic packaging, it is important in transportation, but let's go to the big stake where we can have more impact now. So let's make sure that the things we put inside packagings have a positive impact, and then let's improve the packaging in parallel. But the focus should be in the first one.
Let's focus on the 90%, not on the 10%.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and meat or other types of products need to be packaged as well. So it's not as if you buy, a lot of people who buy meat, it's also packaged in plastic or in paper that is then coated with plastic. So it's not, and no one is asking those companies about their packaging. So it's also always interesting. I feel like once you're trying to
Double
make
standards,
a difference,
no way.
It's like people get so strict and authoritarian with you, and you're just trying to make a change, and you struggle so much because there's like this hyper criticism, I feel, and there's a special spotlight because people hear the words like sustainability and they try to find a reason to say you're not, sometimes at least, criticizing the packaging of the meat industry, for example. So
no one.
It's actually very interesting.
It is very interesting, and it helps you to put things in perspective, but also it's good because it means that we have a consumer base that is very intense. And I mean, I love it in a way that it kind of places us in the right direction and makes sure that our mission stays there, Sometimes I mean, and I say it very openly, like, come on, like no one criticize anyone about this. And now because we do it, like in general, we take it as a strength, like as how to use it to make sure that we stick to who we are in terms of mission and in terms of transparency as well.
Yeah. So Bernat, we've talked about the environmental aspect and the ethic aspect a little bit. I mean, those are kind of the obvious points when it comes to why we could maybe at least partially skip the meat and turn to plant-based nutrition. And then there's the health aspect as well, which I did want to touch up on, is the social aspect, because one of your key messages is always the social justice point, or this is a point you're making, the social justice one. And I was just wondering, what does social justice have to do with meat substitute?
Social justice for us, it's how like everything we do when we do things, because there are many ways to protect and work for social justice. How you build a team, where do you produce, how do you produce, how are fairly paid or not unfairly paid the people you work with. There are many things. So kind of like, or even the way you recruit for your team, like to not have biases, to protect certain minorities. I mean, social justice is a big thing for sure. We can do much more, but we kind of like filter and make sure that we work towards to have more positive impact in social justice. And here we could do many things. I mean, I have many dreams. For example, there are a lot of activists in the Amazonia that are being killed because they protect certain pieces of like land in the Amazonia, and they're killed by the meat industry because like it's cheap to kill them. Like no one cares. It seems that no one cares, but someone has to protect them. Like just giving visibility would be a social justice thing, but helping them even more apart from visibility, like how we build a movement, how we make sure that those pieces of land cannot be destroyed with the people inside. That would be social justice. And sometimes we don't have to go that far, because if we remember at the very beginning of the COVID outbreak 2 years ago, very few people could go outside of their homes. And most of these very few, there were people that called illegal in Spain because they don't have the legal papers, but they perfectly work in the meat industry, going to the slaughterhouses to make sure that we receive the meat in the supermarkets. And I can tell, and I mean, I have friends that worked before in slaughterhouses and in the meat industry, and what happens inside, it's definitely very against social justice for the people there, for like, and not just how they are paid, like for mental health and many other aspects. And then most of the COVID outbreaks at that point were inside workers from slaughterhouses, because they did not have even the conditions to work, like
I
health,
remember in
like
Germany there was a big scandal with Tönnies, which is one of the biggest or the biggest meat producer. It was the exact same thing that you're saying. There was a huge outbreak. They handled it quite badly. And then all of these social aspects, as you were saying, came to light, and that horrible conditions there were, they had to work, or they have to work in.
And I mean, let's remember that we go to less developed countries to produce soy or other cereals or other things that we need to feed animals. Then we feed the animals in the Western world to feed ourselves, while these less developed countries, they don't have the food to feed themselves. This is social justice. I mean, social justice is just inherent in the whole like food system. So we can build a food system that is socially just. I mean, it is possible, but the first thing that we have to make sure is that people have the minimum nutrients, and we are not getting there yet, and we are far from it. I mean, it's not that something that we will reach next year.
But speaking of nutrients, maybe just very quickly, because I know it's getting late already, and Roman had some pressing questions. But actually, the nutrient part is one of the, I would say, points of attack against meat substitutes, because, I mean, one, a very long ingredient list. Two, they have around 2 grams of salt per 100 grams of product. They have a fat ratio of 10 to 20%, and many products have added sugar, which has led them, let's say, enemies of the meat substitute industry at least, to say, okay, but this is not a healthy alternative, or this is not good either. What about Heura products?
I think till 2 or 3 years ago, everyone that was working in this industry was unlocking the sensorial experience. So meaning like to mock meat, to be like meat, but not like using whatever ingredient, not whatever, like, but lots of ingredients to reach that meat taste. Now, and that's our focus at Heura, is how we do this sensorial experience that we obviously have to get, but with very high quality ingredients and with nutritionals that people like, that nutritionists would recommend. And this is our focus. Like nutritionists have to be able to recommend these products. And this helps you a lot to filter which things you can launch and which fats you cannot use, et cetera, et cetera. So we put a lot of focus on our products when you compare them to animal meat. Most of them 85% less saturated fats, 50% less fats, high in fiber, high in protein, Nutri-Score A. I mean, you just have to check. I mean, I always recommend people just to turn the label. And if we compare Heura to the rest of the meat alternative aisle, we use very like less ingredients in general as an average. I don't have the number, but maybe it's 40% approximately, I think. But it's just because we put the focus there. I mean, we want to create not meat alternatives, but meat successors. And to be a successor, not an alternative, you have to be very much better in every single point. So we don't use an animal, easy. So we get better in animal rights. Sustainability wise, we're much better because just keeping the animal helps a lot, and we will get much better. Like, stay tuned, because like there will be big jumps there. Taste wise and texture wise, like sensorial experience, we can command, but like we do a lot of taste panels before launching, so we get very good grades there. But also health wise, we have to be much better. So we get the best of plants, but with the best of meat. And I mean, I don't want to now promote Heura a lot, but like, go to a supermarket, check the ingredient list, check the nutritional profile.
Bernat, maybe one last question. Where do you think the diet of the future, what do you think it's going to look like, perhaps? And also, where is Heura going?
As a food industry, I really believe that we will stop using animals, and we will show that there is no need to use animals. I mean, it is better in everything, and even better in margins and in economy, greener economies, more places like, and better jobs. I mean, it will be so obsolete when we kind of like solved all the barriers. We are in the making, obviously. We are not yet there, but we will get there. Yeah. And we will get there very soon.
You do think then that we will go from flexitarianism to veganism in the end, at the end of our journey of nutritional evolution, no?
I think we will stop using animals before than we think, definitely, to produce meat and dairy. We have to remember that most of the industries that now we take for granted, like transportation, it began with a horse, and now we go by electric cars, or like we try to move to electric cars. And illumination, for example, we started with using whale oil. So again, an animal. Then we moved to bulb, and now we have LED light, and we will get better than the light for sure. We always start using an animal because it was what we had. It was the technology we had, but in different sectors, we understood that those animals were not the best way to reach the final point, which was like to have light in your place or to move from A to B. So same will happen in the food industry. We will just see that doesn't make sense to use a cow if we can use a machine that is much better, much quicker, much more efficient, much healthier, much more sustainable, social justice, etc., etc. And plus, it can fit everyone in the world. So yeah, I think we will stop using animals sooner than expected.
I think that's a brilliant end. Unless you want to add anything else that we didn't ask you, perhaps, Bernat.
No. Just encourage everyone to like make as many changes as they can.
By example, cook something really yummy with a Heura products to convince your friends of how great it is.
For sure.
Well, we will definitely try that. Thank you so much, Bernat, for being with us today. And thanks to everyone who came along to this little field trip to the world of flexitarianism and meat substitutes.
Bernat, thank you so much. It was a joy having you here with us today.
Thank you for giving us a voice.
And thank you to all listeners and viewers. Bye. To the next episode.
Bye-bye.